Okay, it says it's recording, so we'll turn this on. Get it recording. Okay. Okay, I think everything's recording and we're ready to go. So, first thing is a tour of the parts, I think. This is what we're going to try to build. Massey Ferguson engine that's going to go on a Massey Ferguson 35 here. And like I've said, is the original block and crank were destroyed. I'll show you that in a minute. Let's tip this sideways a little bit here so we can see it. Let's bring it around so it doesn't fall out. So let's look close at this. And I need my glasses again, but I think it says Z145 right there on the tag, and then down here Z145A. So we're going to hope that this can be built with parts from the Z135 instead of 145, because that's what we have over here. You know, we got the head and our main bearing caps with the oil pump. That's the clutch. These are various pieces and parts. Distributor, this is like the flywheel stuff, or sorry, the front fan and belts and junk. Alternator, thermostat, starter, hoses, and gas tank. And we'll get all that put back on. So we kind of started from this end in the disassembly, put the pieces and parts as we went this way. And so I'll talk about all these. These are our old pistons. These are the new pistons. Let's cover this first. This is our gasket kit. So in here we've got head gasket, valve cover gasket, oil pan gasket, and then some seals. And then I've got these as well that I bought early on before buying this, when I was trying to just do a quick fix. Thought I could get underneath and fix it from that, but we got it. So we got extras, and I'm putting those over here for now on this cart. So keep them out of the way for now. Okay, so let's talk about those in a minute. Those are the lifters right there. Okay, I'm learning that the meta glasses only record 3 minutes. And I've been talking for a while, so let's start over. This is the old block and crank that got destroyed. And the way that they got destroyed, if you notice right here, this is hard to see, I should get some light, but both sides here have been machined by the crank itself. So along here, along these edges, this edge in particular, you can see there, this guy's been into that, scoring, so machining each other, grinding each other apart, because the flanges, the side thrust flanges on the bearing that goes in here, were squeezed and, you know, blew up, just squeezed out of there, basically by all the forces and pressure. And so these destroyed each other, and we had to find a new block and a new crank. That process took a long time. This was destroyed in July or August of 2024, and it's now September 2025, so it's taken over a year to get to this point. Now, these are the old pistons, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with the pistons, or I didn't look too carefully at the rings, just gonna replace it. Sometimes they come in a kit and it's just easier to get the whole thing. So the kit that I had, I think either came with them or the machine shop put them on for me. Another thing that was ruined is this connecting rod, so had to find a replacement connecting rod, and this was almost the hardest thing to find, and it was expensive. So, but if you notice, this edge has been ground by, you know, internal forces, And so this surface is rough, also the inside the rod bearing surface. And you know, Glenn at the machine shop said, hey, these are smooth, but this ain't smooth no more, and the rod bearing would probably just spin when you put it in there. So we're gonna go with this guy, put this back. And another thing that I really wanted to do was get the bushings inside the connecting rods right here where the wrist pin goes. This guy was a little bit different diameter than the old ones, and so the machine shop went ahead and pressed in new bushings for me and made sure that the play, they honed them out just enough so that this play is right. You see the videos. Okay, so let's pick it up again. Now, when it comes to the connecting rods and their caps, when we took it apart, I did not mark them. I did not number them. And they are supposed to be matched to each other. This one we're good because we bought it together, and Glenn put a number on there for us at the machine shop. We can see that these sides are different than this side. So that will help us. Let's see these guys. Oh, Glenn marked it for us. And he found marks. Oh, this one has been marked. You see that little 2? Stamped in there. And this says 1. So let's find our match. That's not it. Does that look like a 2? What's he trying to do there? I gotta go get my glasses. So anyway, they are stamped with a number, I think he said, that I don't see. So I gotta go get my glasses and then we'll line these up. Okay, so I got some cheaters on over the glasses, so hopefully it's not interrupting the video. But if I side light these, I can see a 2 and a 2. This one's got a 3. So there's 3 and 3. And here's 4 and 4. So we're good. And they kind of tell us which way to go here. I think those go to the stamped sides go together like that. So we'll flip it over and all the sides are on the same side. Okay, now, as long as I have my flashlight, let's look at this and see if I can see the destruction a little better. You can really see that on the crank. The block, I almost got to flip it over so you can see the underside, but this side I can feel it. I can feel that that's been machined against by the crank. Okay, enough with the preparation. I think we're about ready to do something. So let's clear a little spot here. These are our bearings. We got 2 sets of lifters because we got 2 blocks. A lifter's there, a lifter's there. This is probably oil pump. Oh no, it's a new water pump. And this is the oil pump kit. So we'll get to that when we get to that. And this, the water pump, is probably like an over here kind of thing. Okay, now. Those are our main bearings with that flange that got eaten off with the other crank right here. So, and then these should be our rod bearings. All right, now let's look here. See, this should say 10 thousandths over. So these, this was the rod bearing set, right? So the rods are 10 thousandths. These are 10 thousandths of an inch thicker than the standard ones. And that's because these have been ground out to a little bit bigger, 10 thousandths. This should be 20 thousandths. See that? 20 thousandths. And that's because the crank has been ground 20 thousandths off of this. And I'm a little surprised that we're using rod bearings that say 10,000ths. Alright, so this is our goal today, is to get these main bearing caps on with the bearings in. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So the main bearings will go in here on this surface. And we do not oil that when we put them in. So we know that the thrust bearings go in the middle to protect this side, which is ruined on the others, the old block. And then the other guys go out here. And then you put the caps on. And this is complicated because there's a seal that goes on this one here and here. So we'll have to take extra time on this end. And I think the oil pump, this cap has the oil pump in it. And we have an oil pump kit. So that is probably the first order of business rather than this. Alright, so here's that. And this is a dirty part now, so let's keep it away from our clean parts. We see a little bit of machining here too on this main bearing cap. Look at that. But there's no thrust bearing that goes here, so only, you know, the cap itself, which is one of these guys here. Something fits on there. We think it's this one. Boy, the machining marks would line up. Alright, I've got to pause for a moment to figure that out. I mean, it seems like it's this one. Oh. Not O. Okay, I gotta figure this out. Remind myself how this went back together. Okay, so I think I figured this out, and it's not too bad. This guy's the back one, and it lines up flush and makes this flush here across here. So we make sure that everything's good, and we need a seal here on each side of this, so we'll have to work on that when we get ready for that one. So it lines up nice, punches in there. Makes her all flush. And this one, boy, little pins, got it located in there pretty good. Okay, so we can see the wear marks here, and both of these pins are that way, which lines up to both of those being that way. So we're good there. That one goes in and drops down on those pins. Little snap. Good. Now, this one is the oil pump. So here, this gear will drive the oil pump. And this guy is the oil sump. So keep in mind our engine's upside down, and the oil pan there will go to this surface. And so your oil will be sitting in here, and this guy attaches like this. And it will draw the oil into this screen and pump it around the engine through the oil galleys, which are these little holes here. So those holes should come through the bearing and lubricate the crank. And let's take a look here, see through this. So these line up well, no problems. Okay, whoops. Okay, and this one is a two-piecer with these big bolts and that oil pump repair kit. I think we need to get in here to do that. And here's the main bearing cap. Give it a little tap. This look, it's got those pins keeping it in there. Oh, man. Okay, it moved a little bit. Oh, come on. Well, you can see the pins. I gotta have it off if I want to put those bearings in there. Tap, taparino. Tap, 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 tap. Give me something heavier. Give me an actual tool. Well, anyway, that's probably enough. But you can also see that when this is all on there. Okay, what I was trying to say is that this gear looks a little angry on these edges. So that's not great. But the crank, that front gear on the crank that we looked at earlier, will go right here and drive. So the crank is the main drive, right? And it's driving the cam, and it's driving this oil pump. So this gear right here on the old crank needs to come off and be mounted here onto the new one. Ha! There we go. It's got a keyway, and these little bushings probably help it line up with the gear there. So I wonder, as this this one slid, because this was sliding back and forth to ruin that thrust bearing, I wonder if that gear got a little cockeyed and got these edges a little angry here. Okay, stop video. Okay, so we brought the crank over to a working bench, and I have this puller here, and it kind of goes in there to bottom out and grab this. Hopefully that will work. And what I'm going to do, if you look down in here, that just will bottom out in there. So that's okay. But to protect my little tip there, I'm going to stick this nut down in there first. And hopefully, oops. Well, I'll find a size that goes in here. Either that should go. I'll get a tool and do it. Jesus Christ. And then that'll protect that tip and pull that off, hopefully. So, that's the plan there. And here's our oil pump. And our oil pump kit. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Hopefully that's a new gear, huh? Yeah. Get rid of those rough edges on there. That is great. Look at that. Beautiful. So we got some other piece parts here. Let's see what we got. Okay, there's another. That's part of the pump itself, and then this is probably the gear that meshes into that. So, that's what an oil pump looks like. Turns like that and squeezes the oil in between the gears. Draws it in one side and squeezes it out the other. And what do we got here? Okay, some bushings and cotter pin. Well, okay, that's the plan. Let's see what it takes to do that. And, ooh, see that guy right there? This doesn't have it. And that's probably locking that into place. Look at that. Little lock screw in there. Okay, and then these guys got to come out. So, discovered that the meta glasses only record 3 minutes. That's it. So, kind of racing against time every video, it seems like. And this guy took a crap. Says no memory card, even though it's got one in it. Jesus! Fuck! Okay, these are gonna fight. I'm so glad they're flathead. Alright, so I've got this oil pump in the vise to try to get these out. I had to take the little spigot off the side to get it in the vise. And so I was working this guy. If anybody knows a better trick than this, I'd like to know it. But what I do is I just, put it in there. And then lean down, put my body weight on it, and turn with the pliers. It's not going. This one I got to crack, but that's enough for me to quit before that gets boogered. The other way is to get a torch and heat this up. But, you know, I think I'll just take it to the machine shop and say, hey, this is giving me trouble. So we will skip that part for now. But I sure would like to have this new gear on there. So yeah, I'll take it to the machine shop and ask for help on this guy. Now let's see if we can get any further with this pulley here. Alright, so I think we need a little tool to stick this guy in. Get him in there. And then, is that in all the way? No, there we go. Okay, now, these are notorious for twisting and shit, so there we go, get it nice and tight. And then I think I try an impact on this. And I got my new little green guy. What do we think that is? 9 stinks? It's a little bigger. Huh. This is the part of this that you don't show in a video. There we go. Oops. Let's see what happens. What? Oh, it's half. Okay. Not the little green guy. This one. So we don't have to drag out the pneumatics. And we want to go on. So let's see. Yeah, there we go. That went right. Okay. So this thing goes on here real nice. And notice the outside's marked. And this side went in. And we don't have any bushings here. Now this has to go on the old crank, so let's go look at it. Or the new crank, sorry. Here we go. And what I found is that it's just doesn't want to go on so easy as the other one. Really doesn't want to go on as easy. So I'm working on kind of cleaning this up maybe a little bit with some steel wool. I already hit it, and then some emery tape. Kind of trying to, and we don't want all of our grindings and shit from doing this to be in this area. Because all our sensitive parts are right there. But I just want to clean this up, and then notice we've got a fat stack of bushings here that we didn't see on the other one. So just wondering, and then what that's going to do is it's going to align these teeth here to be in the right place. Because that's going to go here, and it's going to drive the cam, and the oil pump, which sits here, is going to drive that gear. So what those bushings are going to do is slide it forward and backwards to mesh the teeth. And so I really think this should be done later to try to get that once the crank is in. And then I noticed once I got it off that there's bolt holes in this thing. So maybe something bolts to it, but that could have been a way to pull it off as well, is to put something in there to yank on it. But we got it off the other way with the puller decently. But I don't want to fight this when it's in either, so let me keep working on it. Lube it up maybe and try to get it a little slicker. I'm just going to leave those there for now. and we'll try to mesh it up correctly later. Okay, so what I got is a nice long piece here, and I just kind of went around like this. Went around like that. We are going to have to make sure that we get all those little filings and everything cleaned out and not on this piece. A good way to do that is hit it with the blowgun from the air compressor. But what we want to do is, now we've got this guy going on here. That's the way we want it. We don't want to fight it. That way it can find its keyway here and go on. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we'll save that for later. But she's ready to go on. Okay, so we're stalled on the oil pump. Got the crank ready to go. So I think what we're going to do is be able to get these the bearings sat down inside the block, and then lay down the crank into it. And we should be able to tighten the center and the back here. I don't know, you don't want to tighten this yet because you have to do seals here on each side. So that, again, fits in there like this. And the seal goes in to that hole. Looking again at my gasket kit, I don't find these in it, which are those seals that slide down in there. And I think it's gonna be a fight, but this is supposed to go in there somehow. That is gonna be a fight and a half. It looks too big. I don't know what I'm gonna do there. I just don't know. But like I said, we're gonna lay the bearings in. I blew this all off in the interim. It's nice and clean. So I think we'll just do the bearings and lay the crank in. And we'll definitely be able to do the middle cap. But then this might be the next step here to try to fight with this before we can tighten this guy. Okay, we're supposed to put sealer, especially that corner is where you're going to want some sealer. And, these nails aren't for snorting coke. They're good for like this, get in there and make sure there's nothing, no residual. And we get a good seal then. Okay. Okay, so I'm looking at this back engine cap closer. Again, it fits in there, and that's the groove that we have to fill. And this is, I think, just too thick. It's going to be a fight. It says, like, use a piece of welding wire to stick it down in there, and I just don't see how that's ever going to be small enough to get smashed in there. And then, so I got looking at the engine kit, and remember it didn't have these in it, so let's set those aside. And I got to looking at the pieces that came in the engine kit, or the gasket kit here. We set these guys aside, and we're looking to see if we got. Here we go, look at this. And it says rear main cap sealing instructions. They say put like a washer around your RTV nozzle and stick that guy in there, in that hole, and squeeze, fill the whole thing with RTV. And that sounds like a winner versus this guy. So that's what we'll do. Okay, we're going to crack these babies open. They're not brand new anymore. There we go. We get our two halves. These should all be pretty close to identical. Oh, look at that. Yeah, that tells us where that one goes and where this one goes. This one we know goes in the middle. And is everybody symmetrical? This one is not. So this one, it matters which side goes where. We'll get to that then. And we've got a little notch there. That should help us know where these go. So that little notch will guide us. Let's take this over. We know it goes in the middle. There's that little notch. And we want this to be clean and dry with no lubrication. And we just set her down in there. And push it in. There we go. Look at that. Alright, there we go. And then this guy's got a notch there. Let's pull this one out. Okay, so that one's got a wide one. This one's got a wide one. And this one has these guys here. So let's see what this wants to do. Might be kind of like that. That's the notch. And then this one would be the bottom. And we need it to align with these holes. So let's get a flashlight and make sure that's right, but I think it is. Yep. And then this guy should be the last one. We think these are symmetrical. That's going to align to these two holes. Like that. So there's the notch. And we can start pushing this in. There it goes. It kind of clicked. Ooh, a little push there. A little further. Yeah, okay. How confident are we on this? Pretty confident. Wish I could see better. Okay, we had a video stoppage, but let's go ahead and push this in. Oops. This one's making me nervous for some reason. There we go. That fit in. Notches in. Okay. Now it doesn't align perfect, but we can see our holes there, and I'll get a flashlight. Oh yeah, let's line it up. Let's line it up. Okay, so now we lube this side with that Molly lube here, and then set the crank down in there. So let's just make sure this isn't separated. Feeling kind of nervous about what's going to come out first, so there we go. That's nice and white. So we'll give it some Molly lube there, and there, and there. Okay, nice, reasonably clean fingers, and spread it around. Good. There we go. And I talked to Greg about a lot about plasti gauging in here. I don't know, we could do it once when we do the main caps here. But I think we're ready to set the crank in. Okay. And let's bring it over. We know this is the front. Gotta be ginger, so preparing. There we go. We just set her down. Nice and easy like that. And there we go. Look at that. Spins nice. There we go. Okay, Google. Okay, now we've got the main bearing caps sitting here. We got the rear, the middle, and the front. And we can see these old wear marks here. See the two holes line up? This guy lines up to that, and it goes in with the notch here. And then I believe that this perforated side should be along this oil galley here. And go in with that notch. So let's go ahead and press each one of these in here. Making sure our holes are good and our notches in there. And I don't know a good technique out of this bush. Man, that doesn't want to go in there. Oh, there it goes. It's a little bit sticking out this side. And that'll straighten out once you clamp it together, but I might just, kind of bang this on the flat surface. Okay, let's try this one. Less of a fight. Good. Yeah, now this one. Pretty good. And then when we tighten everything, it should get this guy to put. Ah, there it goes. Moved a little bit. Ah. So I just can't feel it if it's not all the way in. I can't feel that it's not. So let's take these two over. And remember, this guy's the middle one. And fits with the two pegs front. So we'll fit that down in there. And now we can really see that thrust washer and what it does. It keeps the crank from sliding forward and back. And that's what was really damaged. So you can see when the crank, when I was gone, was wearing against both the cap and the block itself, and that's what ruined everything. But let's push that down. And this guy lines up with that guy, and see that guy lines up with that guy. So, oh, I forgot to lube this one. Shit. We'll take it back out. Okay, back to the lube zone, or the bench. Alright, screwed up. Back to the bench here. We gotta lube her up. Lube her up. And again, lots. Okay. Take these two again. Don't drop them. Goes forward. Like that. And then this peg here. Yeah, there you go. Now you can see there's new bearing in there. Good. Grab the last one. There we go. Doesn't that feel like it's fitting, or doesn't have any keyways or nothing, just the bolts hold it in place. Okay. And I set those two bolts right here. So I think we can go ahead and tighten the back one. I'll start with the middle, of course. Always start in and work outward. So we'll tighten these, and remember this one's got the oil pump, so we're still working on that disassembly, so we can't really put this one together yet. But these two, we should be ready to torque down. So that's what will be next, and I think I'll have to mess around and make sure that I have a good torquing setup. So I have a really old torque wrench, and then I have a digital meter, so we'll make sure that the old torque wrench is dialed in using that digital meter. We'll put the digital meter in the vise and then set it at a setting, and then make sure it's right. And then we'll tighten these. So we'll be back for that. Okay, so here's one of our bearing cap bolts, and that's going to fit right in there. And we don't want too long of a extension because they'll twist and give you an inaccurate torque. Potentially, you know. But now we're going to check our torque wrench. I've dialed it up to 87, I think. Whoops, let me check. It moved on me. Wait, this way. Foot-pounds. 87. Now, got our digital meter here. Torque meter in the vise. I want the peak of where we get. So, we turn it. There we go, clicked. Hey, what happened? Maybe we'll go on battery. We got 83, so we need a couple more poundage. Let's turn this up to 85. And try again. Oop, yeah. Ready? Yeah. 85.7. Let's go set this. $85.8, but that didn't move much. We're supposed to do 85 to 90, so this is be. Whoops, I got a Newton meters again. Fuck. There we go. We're over 90, 95. So let's go to 100. Let's see what we get. Oh, come on. $92. Okay, back her down. Let's try there. Or did I already try there? Okay, you get the idea of what we're doing here. Okay, so we got this guy dialed in, I think, to this guy. And, you know, it's... Well, that's... Here's foot-pounds, and it's about 90 something to get there, and we're trying to do like 87.5 would be between the two, right in the range. So we're gonna go ahead and tighten this guy. There it is. Now what did we get? 83.6. And okay, I think it'll just reset as we go. There it is. Okay, what did we get? 84.3. So we go back over here and get a click. 85. Click. 83.3. Let's go ahead and do the back ones here. There's a click. 85.7. There's our click. 85.2. Click. 85.2. Again, seems like a repeat. There we go. 85.7. So I think these two are in. Again, we can't do this one because of the oil pump, but look at that. Look, it still turns. Nice. And we sure can't wiggle it at all. So I think we're good for now. And I gotta play with the oil pump and so on, so we might be at a stopping point here. I mean, if I wanted to do it, I could start putting pistons in and do rod bearings in the interim. Come back to this, but it's going to be about 6 o'clock p.m., so that might be quitting time for me. Okay.